Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Jackie and I've got some tag sets to share with you today. I've got 6 altogether, three lots that are quite similar, 2 in each set. So set 1 I'll start with, and if I go through these one by one, hopefully it won't be too dull. So each set consists, and these are going into the Etsy shop, consists of 8 items, tags, a mixture of tags and journal cards, and similar. So we've got a journal card with a vintage observer book page and some sari silk and ribbon on that one. There's a booklet also made out of an old observer book, the wildflowers. This has got some sari silk on the spine, and there's a small booklet stitched in to the centre of that. Then we've got a collage tag with a charm. So that's scrapbook paper, book paper, an image from Mrs. Cog and some sari ribbons and a bit of bling. This is another collage tag, and this one I've made with old book paper, scrapbook paper and a layered up die cut to look a little bit like a chipboard piece. It's another collage tag onto some Edith Holden paper. This one's trimmed with some buttons as well as the sari silk. This is a smaller journal card with sari silk, lace, layered die cut, more old book page, and there's a few little gems on there. This is a slightly larger journal card, and again I've just layered up different papers and embellished with a few buttons. There's a little bit of scrapbook paper here. The scrapbook paper in this set is mostly quite similar. Started off turning around, there we go. And the final one is vintage tea card on another collage tag with some lace and sari silks. A lot of stitching on these. So that's set 1, the first bundle. And then this bundle has got a robin, and I've added a charm onto that one. It's got another booklet, slightly different images in that one. That's the collage tag. A bit of blues in this one, blues and pinks, and I've tied that with some braid and a bit of embroidery thread. Similar to the previous one, I think it's the opposite way round. I like to do similar things, but I don't really like repeating the same thing over and over, so there are a few variations in these. That's the collage one. This one has got some quite elaborate sari trim at the bottom. I think the colours sort of tone in nicely. Layered up papers on this one. That says full of deep thinking. And the tea card, which is actually a cigarette card, and this is chiffon ribbon rather than sari silk. So that's the first 2 sets. Then I've got these 2 which are quite similar. So we've got tag covered in lace with some die cuts, an image and a little bit of some metal flower on there. This is a layered up journal card with lace at the bottom. You can see really what I've done with that. It's old book paper at the back. This card has got a flower fairy image on it. There's a Tracy Fox style hanging tag in this one with an old playing card in there, and the pocket's just trimmed with a little bit of lace. This is a collage tag using a Mrs. Cog image, I think that is. This is sort of in the style of Roxy Creations. I've used the Tim Holtz, I can't remember what this die cut is called, but it's the pocket with the slots in, and I've used mostly his ephemera pieces to decorate that, but I have made a little tag to go in the back with an old tea card on some scrapbook paper. There's a floating pocket with a card in it. This French paper is from a really old book that I got, so old that all the pages are still folded together. Nobody's ever read it. And this is made again from an old book page. This is an envelope that I've made, and there's a Beatrix Potter card stitched onto that with a die cut. And then this is a very similar set again. Just move those out of the way. This time I've used a darker vintage lace. The previous one was a more modern lace on that one. This is the layered up journal card. This is an old maths book that I found recently. This is our flower fairy card. This is the groundsel fairy, and I found in an old flower book I'd found groundsel page. This is the Tracy Fox hanging tag. This time I've used a cigarette card denoting sycamore tree. This is another collage tag, Roxy style, using a Mrs. Cog image. This is the Tim Holtz die cut again, and a similar tag in the back of that one. This one I've used again, looks like the French book, and there's a extra card in there, and this is the envelope. And then my final grouping is another set. This time I've done an envelope with a extra tag in there. It's just stitched around. I've used a lot of stitching in all of these. They look nice without the stitching, but I like what stitching adds to it. This one has got a bit of bling at the bottom as well as a tie at the top. This is vintage lace for an old collar, and it's pattern paper stitched over an old book page. I've done a little fairy collage tag. When I cut the square pictures out, these were left on the back, so I fussy cut them out and then decided to use them in this little set here. This is the tags that I was making, that this top bit is from Liz the Paper Project, and all I've done is die cut some flower paper and some card and just layered them all up together just to make it a bit more interesting. This is fabric covered and dressed up with some lace and another old cigarette card. Another taller floating pocket with a flower fairy, some Edith Holden, and then we've got a plain tag in there. Again, I've used the old maths book on the back. A 4x6 journal card, just using a die cut, and a similar 4x6 card. A lot of these, I saw this pretty much that layout on Pinterest. Some of these are based on things I've seen on Pinterest. I don't know who all the people are. Mine end up not the same really, although this one is quite similar. And again, a second set in a similar vein, so that's our pocket. One with a dangle. A little cutout fairy on a collage. This is Liz the Paper Project tag over a die cut tag. This one is fabric covered, same fabric, The lace I've just grunged up a little bit with Distress ink. It looked a little bit white. This one is another Flower Fairy, lace at the top there. And a bit of bling on the side. This is my Observer Book journal card and the Tim Holtz journal card with the die cut on it. So that's all of those. I was thinking about doing a tutorial on how I put some of these together, if anybody would be interested. I've used white or off-white stitching on most of these. You could use black. It looks entirely different if you use black stitching or dark grey. I quite like the subtle stitching on my ephemera, so that's why I've chosen to use off-white. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.